The cold gray waters of the North Atlantic have become the latest front in a global confrontation. Once a symbol of open trade and international cooperation, these seas are now a stage for a new kind of conflict, one fought not just with weapons, but with economic pressure and strategic maneuvering. Today, February 19, 2026, the US and its allies are taking direct action against Russia's Shadow Fleet, a secretive armada of tankers that's kept Moscow's oil money flowing despite sanctions. These ships, often operating under false flags and with their transponders switched off, have slipped through the cracks of international oversight for years. For years, these untraceable ships have funneled billions into Russia's war machine. Their cargoes, hidden behind layers of shell companies and forged documents, have allowed the Kremlin to sidestep embargoes and fund its military ambitions. Now, the West is moving from financial sanctions to physical interdictions at sea. Naval patrols are intercepting tankers suspected of carrying sanctioned oil, boarding crews are searching for evidence, and authorities are seizing cargoes in a bid to cut off the flow of illicit funds. The US, UK, France, Germany, and Estonia have launched a coordinated campaign to intercept and seize these vessels, aiming to choke off Russia's revenue. This unprecedented alliance brings together navies, intelligence agencies, and legal experts from across the Atlantic, all working in concert to enforce the sanctions regime. This is a dramatic escalation, turning quiet shipping lanes into potential flashpoints. Once peaceful routes now bristle with tension, as every unidentified ship could be a target, and every interception risks a diplomatic incident. Each seized tanker sends a clear message. The era of looking the other way is over. The West is no longer content to rely on paperwork and financial restrictions. It is willing to act, visibly and decisively, on the high seas. The crackdown is more than symbolic. It's a test of international law, and a challenge to the freedom of navigation. Legal teams are working alongside military units, scrutinizing every seizure for compliance with maritime conventions, while adversaries watch closely for any misstep. Secretary of State Marco Rubio frames these actions as a bid for leverage, not just over Russia, but its allies like Venezuela. The message is clear: those who help Moscow evade sanctions will face consequences on the world's oceans. The West is signaling it will use naval power to enforce its policies, even if it means boarding ships flying a rival's flag. This willingness to act, even at the risk of confrontation, marks a turning point in the economic war. The world's oceans are now the new frontier in this high-stakes economic war, a vast, unpredictable battleground where the rules are being rewritten and the outcome remains uncertain. To grasp the stakes, you need to understand the Shadow Fleet. It's not a navy, but a secretive network of hundreds of aging oil tankers hidden behind layers of shell companies and flags of convenience. As Western sanctions tightened, Russia bought up old tankers, registered them in lax jurisdictions, and kept its oil exports flowing. This fleet is the Kremlin's economic lifeline. Without it, Russia would struggle to fund its government and war. Every successful voyage is a win for Moscow, but the fleet's secrecy is also its weakness. Poorly maintained and uninsured, these ships are vulnerable to Western interdiction. By targeting them, the West aims to cripple the financial engine behind Russia's ambitions. The Shadow Fleet is both Russia's strength and its Achilles heel. The saga of the Bella 1 reveals just how high the stakes have become in this modern maritime chess game, where every move is watched and every decision could tip the balance of power at sea. In the vast expanse of the Atlantic, the fate of a single ship can ripple across continents, drawing in governments, navies, and the world's attention. Sanctioned for smuggling Iranian oil, the Bella 1 vanished for months, only to resurface in late 2025. Its destination, the tense waters off Venezuela, where it attempted to break through a tightening US blockade. The ship's reappearance was no accident. It was a calculated risk, a bold attempt to defy international sanctions and deliver its precious cargo. When the US Coast Guard moved into board, the crew refused all orders and made a break for the open Atlantic, setting off a dramatic, high-speed chase that quickly escalated into an international incident. The world's navies watched as the pursuit unfolded, each side weighing its next move. As Western warships closed in, the crew took desperate measures. In a matter of hours, they rebranded the ship as the Mariana, hastily painting a Russian flag on its hull and re-registering it under Russia. This was more than a change of name. It was a declaration, a plea for protection from a global superpower. This audacious move forced a dangerous question. Would the US risk boarding a vessel now claiming Russian protection, knowing it could trigger a direct confrontation between two nuclear powers? Letting the Mariana go would set a dangerous precedent, signaling to the world that sanctions could be evaded with the right flag. But boarding it risked a major crisis, one that could spiral far beyond the Atlantic. The world's media descended on the story, broadcasting live as the Mariana became a floating symbol of defiance and a test of American resolve. Every move was scrutinized, every signal analyzed for what it might mean for the fragile balance of power. The US now faced a stark and unenviable choice: enforce its sanctions and risk a dangerous escalation with Russia, or back down and allow the precedent of defiance to stand, potentially undermining its authority on the world stage. The outcome of this standoff would echo far beyond these waters, setting the tone for future confrontations at sea and shaping the rules of engagement for years to come. The Mariana's flight was more than just a chase. It was a geopolitical flashpoint, a moment when the world held its breath, waiting to see who would blink first. The pursuit of the Mariana ended with a bold military operation. As the tanker neared Iceland, the US activated a special operations task force led by Navy SEALs. Supported by the UK and elite Night Stalker helicopters, the SEALs fast roped onto the ship under cover of darkness. The crew, overwhelmed, surrendered without resistance. The SEALs quickly secured the bridge, ending the Mariana's flight. Boarding a Russian-flagged vessel in peacetime is almost unheard of, a clear signal that the US would not let a Russian flag shield illicit activity. The use of special forces underscored the mission's risk and importance. The operation was flawless, but it crossed a line rarely approached in maritime law. Washington's message: no vessel is untouchable if it undermines Western sanctions. The world took notice, so did Moscow. Russia didn't stand by as the Mariana was seized. Moscow dispatched warships and a nuclear-powered submarine to protect the tanker, raising the specter of direct confrontation. US commanders raced to act before Russian forces could intervene. The standoff was tense. Two nuclear powers, one rogue ship, and the risk of escalation. US and UK surveillance planes tracked Russian movements, keeping the situation from boiling over. Russia condemned the seizure as piracy. China echoed the outrage. The operation ended without shots fired, but the world was left on edge. The Shadow Fleet survives by staying invisible. Tankers routinely switch off their tracking systems, going dark for days to avoid detection. They transfer oil at sea, swapping cargo between ships under cover of night and falsifying documents to launder the oil's origin. Flags of convenience and shell companies obscure ownership, making it nearly impossible to trace a ship's true masters. But Western forces are adapting, using satellite radar, trade data, and advanced analytics to track even the most elusive vessels. The technological arms race is relentless. As the West closes the net, hiding is getting harder. The oceans are becoming a transparent battlefield. The Mariana's seizure is just one part of a global crackdown. The US and European allies are pooling intelligence, naval power, and legal tools to disrupt Russia's illicit oil trade. Blockades and interdictions have become routine, with dozens of tankers intercepted or turned back. Each seizure raises the cost and risk for anyone doing business with sanctioned regimes. The West argues these actions are legal enforcement of sanctions, not piracy. The goal cut off Russia's war funding, gain leverage for negotiations, and fracture the Shadow Fleet's support network. Legal frameworks and international cooperation are as vital as military might. The pressure is relentless, shrinking Russia's options. The Shadow Fleet faces its greatest challenge yet. The message is clear. The world is closing ranks against sanctions evasion. The net is tightening. Ukraine has brought a new weapon to the fight: sea drones. Unable to match Russia's navy, Ukraine uses explosive-laden unmanned vessels to strike Russian military and economic targets in the Black Sea. Recently, Ukrainian drones have targeted Shadow Fleet tankers, disrupting Russia's logistics and inflicting real economic pain. Each attack is a blow to Russia's war effort and a warning to shippers: nowhere is safe. Videos of drone strikes boost Ukrainian morale and serve as global propaganda. For insurers and shipowners, the risk of drone attack is now a real deterrent. The West uses blockades and special forces. Ukraine uses low-cost, high-impact tech. Together, these efforts make the Shadow Fleet's business perilous. Russia's economic lifeline is under attack from all sides. The campaign against Russia's Shadow Fleet has pushed the world into a new era of maritime confrontation. Once, the world's oceans were seen as vast highways for commerce and cooperation, but now, they have become arenas of suspicion and rivalry. Every shipping lane, every strait, is watched with a wary eye as navies from rival powers maneuver for advantage. Boarding a Russian-flagged ship marks a dramatic escalation, one that would have been unthinkable just years ago. Such actions send shockwaves through diplomatic circles, raising the stakes for every nation involved and making the risks of miscalculation ever more real. The oceans are now a potential flashpoint between nuclear powers. With so many armed ships in close proximity, the margin for error is razor thin, and the consequences of a mistake could be catastrophic. A single misstep could trigger a global crisis. Tensions run high as every maneuver is scrutinized, and every decision could tip the balance between peace and open conflict. Russia and China condemn the seizures as piracy. The West insists it's enforcing international law. The world's great powers are locked in a war of words, each side accusing the other of aggression and overreach. The rift over legitimacy and power at sea is deepening. Trust is eroding, and the rules that once kept the peace are now being tested like never before. This struggle is about more than oil. It's about the future of global security and the rules that govern the seas. The outcome will determine who controls the world's most vital trade routes and resources. Will naval power become the main tool for settling economic disputes? Or will diplomacy and international law prevail in the face of rising tensions? How far will nations go to protect their interests? The choices made now could define the next era of global order, or chaos. The answers will shape the world for years to come, influencing not just governments and militaries, but the lives of ordinary people everywhere. What do you think? Join the conversation and share your perspective on this unfolding global drama.